Geografija nekoliko drugače je pouk, s pomočjo katerega lahko slepi.
Teaching geography in school for blind and partially sighted children presents at the same time a challenge and a great responsibility. Geography is very important for visually impaired pupils because it gives them the ability to understand and gather information about environment and space. The approach to blind or partially sighted pupils differs from that to normally sighted pupils. The aim of this presentation is to mediate the experience and knowledge of teaching geography in a class with visually impaired children. This experience should help other teachers, especially those in ordinary schools who encounter visually impaired pupils integrated in a class. Institution for Blind and Partially Sighted Children in Ljubljana presents Geography in a Different Way. Idea, text by Roman Brvar. Video and camera by Sasha Vrabic. Music played by children from Institution for Blind and Partially Sighted Children in Ljubljana, Slovenia. Earth in Space.
You can hear the whistle blow 100 miles. 100 miles, 100 miles, 100 miles, 100 miles.
The symbolic recording in the introduction represents the Earth and the Moon in a dark space, using apple and hazelnut. For the blind, the only real thing is what they can experience directly. For the blind and partially sighted pupils, the perception is greatly reduced. When preparing for a certain lesson, the most important thing is the preparation of study materials and use of assistive aids, taking into account the functional vision of individual pupils. Functional or residual vision must be considered when working with visually impaired pupils through special teaching methods, use of various assistive aids, and teaching approaches.
Na tvojem jabolku, kako se Zemlja vrti od zahoda proti vzhodu in ki je severni pol, ne, samo točka, južni pol, ne, tako. In Zemlja je občutljiva, je živ organizem in zaradi tega reči ga ne peska in umita, ne.
Ne, sem samo hotela prikazati, kako se krateri naredijo.
Reči ne, ker smo ga mazali, je bilo grdo. Dobro, daš dole, ne, in tukaj pogledamo, ne.
For the blind, a word see means a special way of perception. That is to accept the world with other senses, smell, touch, hearing. Pupils who lost sight later and still have some visual experience gather spatial knowledge and relations in space much easier than those who have been blind since birth and have no visual experience. How to strive for something which doesn't exist for the blind, for something he cannot imagine or even dream about it. A teacher should stimulate interest in the blind for the things they are not aware of.
Svetlobole smo čedalje bližje središču Zemlje. Ugani zakaj?
Mars. Saturn. Vesolje.
100 miles, 100 miles. You can hear the whistle blow 100 miles. Lord, I'm one, Lord. Lord, I'm 2. Lord, I'm 3. Lord, I'm 4. Lord, I'm 500 miles away from home. Away from home, away from home.
Personal computer. Use of PC and interactive devices.
Čo pa mi zdaj to? Venera. Pet, bolj sem pet, pretirahno pet. No pet, naslednjega pritisnem.
Jupiter,
Saturn,
No, greš naprej.
Uran,
Pomagaj si še s to roko, ne? In tale je.
vesolje,
Napravi še naprej.
Pluton,
Ugasem pa zadnjes.
Saturn,
How will a teacher communicate with a pupil? Which perceptual paths will be used? Will the means of communication be Braille, Braille typewriter, textbook in Braille, teaching sheets in Braille, or tactile displays? Will the pupil work with recorded text, hearing, or will he use Braille line on computer? Will the lesson be based on a demonstration near the object or on a model? Will it be excursion or individual work? All these ways are contemporary and often used in teaching process.
Welcome to Dutch Blaster van Nijmegen Export Heel Expert Move Graphics Menu.
Sam iets met
Inovativnost pri pouku geografije za slepe in slabovidne učence do inovacij
Dutch Blaster van Nijmegen Export Heel Expert Move Graphics Menu.
Ljubljana, Orto, Foto, Pirat, Orto, Postojna, Ptuj, Ravne na Koroškem, Škofja Loka, Zvengradec, Trbovlje, Velenje, Počeč.
In če zdaj pogledamo to, kar je spuščeno, kar da še drugo roko v. To, kar je spuščeno, so ulice.
Air destinations. At partially sighted pupils' time of observation is longer because their eye needs more time to adapt to impulses from the environment. Exercises and experience improve perception of objects and colors. Partially sighted pupils have modest spatial experience as well. Low vision intensifies difficulties in perception, so work at geography lessons should be adapted to perceptual ability of each pupil. When preparing teaching sheets, we should pay attention to adequate enlargement of graphical material, to an assortment of contrast colors, lines and contents, eliminated of all unimportant details.
Tako, ne? Gor, Japonsko.
To je Japonska.
Pa
To
Koreja.
je pa Koreja.
Okay,
Zdaj bom pa na tem zemljevidu...
Izmeri razdaljo do
Ja,
Tokija.
najprej razdaljo. Ne najprej z vrvico.
Ja, poleti z avionom v Tokio, prav?
Iz Ljubljane,
Z
bom
Brnika.
jaz. Iz Brnika grem v Korejo. Koreja.
Reši
No.
pit v Tokio.
To je Tokio. Koreja je pa tle.
Material of composition should resemble the actual object or idea. It is right that single parts of display work. Some graphic concepts, pictures, processes, or models cannot be simply translated to Braille or adapted into tactile pictures. These have to be made in such a way that they are acceptable to tactile perception or diminished visual perception.
20,
Samo, zdaj še enkrat izmeri 10.
30,
Pokaži. Ne.
10,
Ja. 20.
20,
Pa zdaj pa štej centimetre.
A ja.
21, 22, 23.
Ni centimetrov. 24 centimetrov je do Tokija. Torej do Koreje je do Koreje jih je pa 20.
Je bliže, ne? Nekaj čez 20, ja. In če bi to zdaj v kilometre dali, je to približno 10.000 kilometrov. 10.000, to je žogica, ne? Bi pokazal tle, recimo Ljubljana je do Koreje, ne? Približno sem, ne? Tako.
Tako nekaj.
Rocks and volcanoes.
Ene so preoblikovane metamorfne kamenine, ene so sedimentne kamenine, ene so magmaste kamenine. Zdaj pa poskušajte jih razvrstiti v dva kupčka. Kjere so? Metamorfne, katere so? Kamenine, rastlini in živali iz morja. Katere so katere? Sedimentne so tiste, ki so se usedale. Metamorfne so tiste, ki so se spremenile. Kaj pride iz vulkana? Poglejte. To je zdaj skrepenela magma v lavo. Blanka, dvigem glavca.
It is necessary to find, make or show in some other way the information which will be acceptable for the blind. This can be tactile displays, tactile pictures, graphs adapted to tactile perception, models, tactile maps and plans or displays by audio-tactile devices. Some colored tactile pads are used for pupils with very low vision who are almost blind, as well as adequate visual material adapted to curtailed visual perception. Work with models and reliefs is advisable, necessary, when the observed object is out of hand, reach, or it is too big, or it is a natural phenomenon or process.
Krater in tukaj dol teče magma, ki se spremeni v pa bruha in nastane vulkanski pepel ali tuf. Razumemo?
Kras, karst, Slovene particularity.
To so pa podzemske kraške oblike. Tu so kapnike noter, ne? Tukaj so noter kapnike, ne? Kapnike, ne? In tukaj jih imamo, to so stalaktiti, ne? Stoječi, ne? Kraš in da bi kapnik tam je, ne? Vidiš, to je pa zdaj krasa, ne? Kapnika, ne? In če raste dol je... Kaj pa ko gor raste? Stalagmita, ne? No in to je pa kraška hiša. Kako izgleda kraška hiša, ne? Kar poglej se z dvema rokama. Vhod noter, pa je dvorišče.
Lahko samo mačkan.
Ja.
Kraška hiša. Ja, ta model kraške hiše je izdelan po videu Škrateljnove hiše iz Divače. Pri opisu modela hiše bodi pozoren na značilne detajle.
No, tukaj je porton, vidiš noter, ne? Noter porton, ograja, to je ta porton.
To.
To je zid, noter so drevesa, pa vinska trta, to je kamnita miza, tam je nekaj vinograda, trta je noter, tukaj je vodnjak, zadaj je vrt.
Kroron hiša.
Zdaj pa greš hiša po stopničkah pojedi noter.
Na gang.
Ja, prideš na gang, noter, ne. Dimnik je pa ob hiši,
Educational material have to be adapted to the visual perception of an individual pupil. Sometimes this is ordinary material or educational complete which pupils use with magnifying glass or an electronic magnifier. For pupils with severe visual impairment who cannot use ordinary material, it has to be adapted to the enlarged print, be generalized, be colored intensively or somehow adapted so that it is suitable to individual perception of a partially sighted pupil. Adaptation of textbooks, teaching sheets and visual material should be made carefully.
Ja? Kan li ste izponacije sveta?
Polder, depression, the Netherlands.
Polder, tukaj je kanal, čutiš? Tu so naredili nasip, da bi zaprli morje, da ni poplavljalo kopno.
More exciting conceptions have to be presented as a model. Models can be the starting point for understanding processes and the basis for the wider proceeding of contents. Example, using a model of boulder, artificial depression, pupils understand and know the entire image, concept of the Netherlands as a country of boulders.
In morje. In zdaj poglej, če pride voda čez nasip, pride čez nasip. Ne pride. Se pravi morje, nasip preprečuje, da bi voda prišla v polder. Razumeš? Ti greš potem naprej, se pravi kanal, morje, nasip, to je pa zdaj klor iz tega. Kaže morje, če presek, in tukaj pa vidimo od vrha. To je ta črpalka, še voda ostaja in to je črpa kanala. In tukaj vidiš so že hiše na polderju.
Comparations.
Cirkuca, vidiš, hribček, cirkuca, ne? Tu teče kaj? Reka, kaj pa malo potipaj, poglej. Tole je
Most.
cesta, most. Vidiš, tole je grad, ne? Tole je mlin, to so njive, vidiš, travniki. Tako, zdaj opazi. Glej, tole je grad. In kje je tle grad? Pokaži tam grad. To.
Pupils with low vision gather correct experience gradually because they get only a little of back information. When meeting and describing a big object, natural curiosity, geographical phenomenon, or some other thing in space, we should consider and pay attention to. Blind pupils should not be left to their own ingenuity and independence, but should be led to the object by hand. The observed or studied object should be explained or put in pupil's hand. At the same time, basic characteristics and extensiveness of the object have to be explained by comparison and put in geographical space. When defining a concept, a phenomenon, or a process, the guidelines have to be clear and unambiguous. The understanding of the object or a phenomenon will be more clear for the blind pupils when explained with the appropriate model, relief, map or positive folly direct on the place. When using tactile plans, teacher and pupils should prepare the plan of the way, the content and extent of work, define goals and performers for separate activities together.
Mogoče samo eno stran.
Pa to, ko smo že načeli.
Pa daj na stran. Dosti. Pa daj sem. No, to se je zdaj tloris dobila. Tloris te hiše. Vidiš?
Vem.
Tloris te hiše. To je, za slepega je pogled, z tiče perspektive nemogoč, zaradi tega naredimo to tako. Od te hiše smo dobili. In ta tloris je pravzaprav pogojni znak, s pomočjo katerega označimo hišo na zemljevidu.
Teachers should be acquainted with the pupil and should consider hidden individual qualities. Is the pupil self-dependent? trained enough for some manner of work? Does he or she have difficulties when writing, reading, touching? What is his orientation like? Have they been blind since birth, or did they lose sight later? Tactile pictures.
Slovenski kozolec, slovenska značilnost. Narodna, evo.
V to daje pač seno, ker je podnebje tako,
Ja, da se lahko
posušijo.
posuši.
To imaš pa
For presenting things that have special relations such as maps, sketches, plans, we first have to think of the subject matter we would like to present on a certain area, considering all laws of tactile perception. Only then can we start making user-friendly tactile maps, plans, sketches, diagrams, handouts, etc.
no, Islandije pa ni.
Vidim.
Each geographical topic presents a challenge for a teacher. There is a question how to present, explain, describe to blind pupils a certain conception, diagram, picture, graph or table. For partially sighted pupils, a magnifying glass or electronic magnifier are used. For the blind, no geographical picture means any value. The solution is to make a tactile picture, which means a model or a diagram accessible to a tactile perception. Tactile maps, plans and sketches are the most characteristic elements at geography lessons for the blind.
In Antarktika, in Afrika.
Kje je Antarktika?
Čist dol, spodaj.
To.
To je.
Afrika, Madagaskar. Moja arabski polotok.
Ja.
Ena zavijajoča črta.
Zdaj
Tole.
tukaj tole. To je pa znak za hrib, ne?
Vzpetina. Čakaj še malo, da se pogledam. Mesto, aha, taka pika, ponikalnica, je jugasta, jezero, aha.
100 miles, 100 miles, 100 miles, 100 miles. You can hear the whistle blow 100 miles. Lord, I'm one, Lord, I'm two, Lord, I'm three, Lord, I'm four, Lord, I'm 500 miles away from home. Away from home, away from home, away from home, away from home. Lord, I'm 500 miles away from home. Not a shirt upon my back, not a penny of my name. Lord, I cannot go home on this away. This away, on this away, this away, on this away. Lord, I cannot go home on this away.
Measuring of altitude and incline of the hill.
Na tej imaš razdelbe, još pa počiti. Samo. Tu imaš razdelbe in te razdelbe omogočajo, da ti očitaš višino. Tu imaš pa nivelirko in zdaj...
When planning the field work, an excursion or observation exercises, pupils should already be familiar with correct usage of devices, which will be necessary when observing and evaluating. Especially for the blind, the teacher must make possible direct observation considering elementary orientation. Pupils should observe things, understand and recognize the relations to the environment directly. Pupils become familiar with the usage and work of the devices which are yet to be used in class. Geography lessons cannot be successful enough without excursion and direct practical work. With predominating theoretical work in class, pupils can hardly gain any concepts knowledge and skills.
Hej,
Poskušamo.
Saša je v redu?
hop, stop.
Koliko je?
Samo malo. To je pa 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 skoraj.
Kaj naprej poštevam?
Pa 52 je koliko?
Je,
Stop. Dej lata
122.
postavim naprej, dvigni lata.
Daj naprej.
Še naprej lata. Dobro.
Čak. To je že na nič. Ja, nič? Jo.
20, 30, 40, 50, 60, spet 70. Ode.
Kar naprej.
Ja.
Ozi, A jaz ne bi smel pristati, ne?
Tako, dobro. Kaj naprej?
Zdaj ne bi smel.
Kaj naprej?
Počas. Stoj, ne, nimam še gor. Še.
Koliko so da številke? Malo se spomnim.
Ja. Stop. Je.
32, mislim.
32. Okej.
No, se štejemo zdaj.
52 pa 32 je 84, plus 140 je
224.
No, se pravi,
Višina hriba
je 224,
centimetrov.
lahko pa bi
Oziroma 20,24 metra.
Tako. A mi lahko še zmerimo naklon, koliko procentni je naklon?
A ja.
Ok, gremo še naklon izmeriti. Saša, priniko. Zunaj si mi moraš.
Zdume, da je zelo za manjca.
Teba skoraj nič, a je 5%?
Ja, je.
5%, ne?
Kaj?
Skoraj 10 v bistvu. Ampak je nek 5-6.
Se pravi, enkrat manjši od
Tamle.
tega. Ja, okej. To je vse.
Innovations. Teachers have to know pupils' personalities and their perceptual and learning abilities. Accordingly, a teacher must be flexible, inventive, and actual. Actuality is a demand of geography as well. When adapting teaching plans, educational material, or other literature during work, many ideas or even inventions may arise. Teaching blind and partially sighted pupils is creative. Geography lessons express the need for original ideas and approaches. Continuous innovatory approaches and consideration of the pupil's special needs are necessary for achieving educational goals and a successful lesson.
Kaži tukaj. Vidiš? Soteska in hiše noter. Vidiš, tukaj gore. Soteska.
Understanding the space is quite difficult and complicated for the blind. There are several hindrances for them which sighted people even do not notice. Special requisites and knowledge are necessary for more or less successful recognizing and defeating of problems. Geography is of great importance for the entire personal development of blind or partially sighted pupils. The knowledge and practical experience which pupils gain during lessons allow for a better understanding and recognizing of the home environments and the world. That makes the blind richer. In this way, visually impaired pupils understand the world as well as sighted pupils.
Z veseljem.
Alo?
Izvoli.
Hvala.
Bo odgrizen.
Ne, bom začela pri Sloveniji, to je recimo tle. Evo, potres v Posočju.
Malo hudo vidim. Okej.
Production, Balkon, 2002.
Dragi poslušalci, drage poslušalke. Danes bomo povedali pesmico Hruške so zrele. No, pa začnimo. Hruške so zrele, hruške debele, ena čez drugo brenčijo čebele. Hruške so zrele, medved hitre se, malo poje in stanejo bele. Hruške so zrele, medved hitre se, malo poje. Hruške za srne, hruške za ptice. Glejte, še ježek nastavlja bodice. Beljejo hruške, sladke, medene, dokler hruške ni več nobene. Konec gostije, o ne, pomota.